Ciao, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of our favorite Italian football podcast, Calcio Culture. My name is Vos, and I am joined, as always, by my co-hosts, Motts and Logs. How are we doing, guys?
What's going on? Ciao, Michi.
Ciao, Paisan Army. Doing well, doing well.
Boys are down bad. They both had a pretty long weekend, a lot of extracurriculars, some would call them. But anyway, we are officially less than 1 month away from match day number 1, kicking off August 17th. I am pumped up for this. International competitions are always a lot of fun, but nothing quite lives up to the league for me. There's a lot going on this summer. Serie A, maybe the most competitive it's been in a lot of years, making waves in Europe. Teams are getting better. I'm really excited about this, guys. How are you feeling?
Pumped for Serie A, always. I mean, I think the last couple of seasons, there's always been a clear-cut number one. I don't think Inter's that far ahead of everybody else this season, especially with the
Oh,
moves being made in Serie
come
in
on.
in
Inter is
Mercado.
so much better than everybody else still. I'm not even going to
I'm not.
entertain that.
I'm not gonna sit here and take the slander of the rest of the league from you about Inter's this good, Inter's that good, blah blah blah. Literally, Italia was half of Inter squad, and they sucked in the Euro. So I'm not gonna let this happen. I'm telling you right now, we have some good teams in Serie A.
Inter is obviously a very, very good team. I think that this year the gap is closing. Obviously, this league, the Serie A, has had the most parity over the last 4 seasons in any league. We've had 4 different winners, I believe, in the last 4 years. I think Inter was the last one to double up. But love. We're only a month away. I'm always excited for the kickoff of the new season. Can't get here soon enough.
Yeah, and we'll bring you guys some major overreactions on August 17th after match day 1 because as always, you know exactly what's going to happen with the entire season after match day 1. But with that, we got some quick shouts for you guys today. A couple snaps for quick shouts. Logan is going to be kicking off the quick shouts. You're not going to see this a lot because it's going to be pretty lucrative here. It's going to be from left field. Logs, what's your quick shout today?
Quick shout all the way from America. Finally getting some good third kids out of MLS. Miami's new kid looking clean. A little Miami Dolphins shout. I love to see they just wore it the other night. A couple of other kits out there: LA Galaxy, LAFC. I think they got the Timbers got one, Kansas City. So love seeing the MLS kind of come around and figure out that they are another league in the world that needs to be doing the creative things to get the fans involved, and you just love to see it.
I
Yeah, it was a
agree.
nice
It's
green. That
it's
was a
it's a
nice shade of green.
it's a really, really good shirt. I like it a lot, and I don't like a lot of things about the MLS, so it means a lot coming from me. But with that, we'll get a little bit more serious here, get into the actual football. Kylian Mbappe, since we last spoke, he has been officially unveiled at Real Madrid as the number 9. Interesting one. 3 to 4 years in the making. It was inevitable, but we're finally here. I think there's some question marks around how he's going to fit in with Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, Endrick. How do you guys feel about Mbappe to Madrid?
I think we saw a good kind of snapshot of what it might look like with the France team in the Euros. He's kind of played a little bit more central, and when he was doing that, he would still shade over to the left. I think that's going to be kind of what's going to happen in Real Madrid if he does play through the middle. I think he tends to shade to the left, and they already have Vinny out there. So I think we can see Mbappe struggle or maybe have a slow transition to start his career at Madrid. However, I do have complete faith in Ancelotti to figure out how to get the best out of all of these guys. But they have a lot of very similar players up top, really missing a true number 9. So it'll be interesting to see how he can kind of fit in.
I'm excited to see what this does for Jude, actually, not even just for the front three, but you saw, I think everyone saw that Jude had a whole nother level to him playing so far ahead on the field. Now he's probably going to drop a little bit further back in, a little bit more at the England style. Just hoping to see him keep the level of play up. I know the numbers won't be the same. He's not going to be in the box as much, assuming they do put him back into the midfield. They obviously have Kamavinga and Chouameni and Freddie, but I think that it's a little crowded up top. Jude's not going to be able to fit in there. They're going to need to play Vinny, Mbappe, Rodrigo at the same time. I don't know how that's going to
Hendrick.
work, but Hendrick, I don't know. I was hot on Hendrick, and then he put up that Easter egg, one pass just to start the game. Not good enough. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Good storyline of the year. What happens at Madrid? Inevitably, they'll be in a Champions League final. But nonetheless, since last we spoke, the Euros did come to an end, and we have a team of the tournament. This one is making our quick shouts because Logs had some disagreements here. I'm a little bit surprised by some of his disagreements, but just to take you guys through the team, our only Serie A representative, Magic Mike Magnan in net, Kyle Walker at right back, William Saliba, France center back, as the right center back, Manuel Akanji from Switzerland, left center back, excuse me, Marc Cucurella as left back, kind of the shout of the tournament there. Beat beat everybody. Everybody thought he was going to be the end of Spain.
Surprise of the tournament.
Surprise of the tournament.
Surprise of the tournament.
Midfield three, we got the player of the tournament. Some debate there. Could have been Fabian Rui, but it's
No debate.
Rodri.
No debate. No debate
Rodri
there.
with Fabian Rui and my boy Danny Olmo. And then up top, we got the three kids, Lamine Yamal, Jamal Musiala, and Nico Williams. Lokes, what's your problem with this team? Because I only have one issue.
Couple qualms. Listen, I love Mike Mignon. I obviously always support my boys, and Mike Mignon won us a Scudetto a couple years ago. But I think that there was just a bunch of other performances that were a lot flashier, a lot better. You think about what was in front of Mignon the entire tournament: Saliba, Upamecano, that Kunde, that back line was stellar. I think when you look at individual performances from the position, Marmadashvili out of Georgia, keeping him in games. Diogo Costa at Portugal, 3 penalties in a row. I love to see that kind of thing. Kyle Walker, did he really have the best tournament? I don't know. Why is Danny Carvajal not involved? Denzel Dumfries on the back post not involved? I think that was a little hasty. And then Akanji. I didn't see much out of Akanji. I think he had a couple of headers in there in the box, getting a little involved. Definitely a bunch of other center backs that had great tournaments, and I'm not sure that was the one.
Mott's, any problems with this team?
My one problem would just be Kyle Walker. I don't think he had that good of a tournament. To Akanji Logs, I mean, Swiss went really far. They got to the quarters. He balled out. He was an anchor back there for them. So I don't have a problem with that. I was interested in the fact that Magnan is the only Serie A player in this team because the Serie A players kind of balled out this tournament. Bologna was at one point leading the goal and assist contributions, and obviously a bunch of other players played extremely well in this tournament, just to name some, Tio, Cavada. So I was surprised that there was only Magnan, but that's probably because there's not too many Serie A players on Spain or England, and you got to give it to the guys that go the furthest. This team is pretty much dominated by Spain. One quick shout out, Vos, your boy, before I pass it back to you. Danny Olmo, team of the tournament, definitely deserved it. Started off on the bench. Pedri did go down, but I think even if Pedri doesn't go down, he might end up taking his spot. He balled out and not a lot of minutes that he was given. Great tournament by him. And then real quick, really love to see the 3 young kids up top with Lamine Yamal, Musiala, and Nico Williams. That's great to see the kind of next gen coming up and dominating international tournament.
Lisan Al Gaib.
That's our Lamine Yamal Paisan army, if you guys don't know.
Follow us
on
Twitter
if it wasn't so obvious.
Yeah, he's our Timothy Chalamet. Dune 1, Dune 2, both really good movies. Lamine Yamal starring in both, actually. But flipping it over to the other side of the pond here, Copa America, we do have one Serie A star who really solidified his place in most likely top 5 in Ballon d'Or voting. It would be very surprising if he did win it. It would be very surprising if he broke top 3. Well, that's Lautaro Martinez, who was banging in goals for Argentina left and right. This guy is hitting his stride. I have some qualms with him, I would say. But you can't argue goals, and he's banging them in.
Tell us why, Vos. Tell us why you have qualms with this guy who's just an absolute tear.
I'm going to save it for our enter spotlight here.
Well, in any case, Lautaro should be in the mix for the Ballon d'Or. There's definitely some better guys out there from this year, but he'll definitely be up top.
Listen, I don't think he wins it, but you put together or you look at what he did this past year, it's tough. There's tough to beat that campaign. He won the Serie A MVP. He was a Golden Boot for Serie A, Golden Boot for Copa America. He's just like Danny Olmo coming off the bench for Argentina and still was the Golden Boot. So he's doing a lot in not that much time. He's a solid player. I do want to see what happens this year because the level that he's put out this past year has been insanely high. Gonna be tough to repeat this level, but let's see if he can. If he can, he's taking that next step in his career for sure. Now we just need to see it a little bit more consistently year in and year out. Shout out Serie A.
And keeping it rolling. Preseason has begun, and there is one man who is firing on all cylinders to begin, and that's Inter's new signing in Mehdi Taremi. We're all a big fan of his. He has now played 2 preseason games. He has a brace, and then he netted another goal today. This is a good sign of what's to come for Inter, and they have a striker here who's in a very different profile from what they have, who's performing. So this could be big for them. When they need a goal, they have another guy. If somebody gets hurt, they have another guy.
Yeah, Taremi's always been solid. I mean, I think he spent a couple too many years in the Portuguese league. Might have been stuck there for the price tag, but has always been solid. Had a great World Cup with Iran a couple of years ago. Has always been consistent. Really, really, really high floor, and can play a couple of different versions of a nine, which is always nice to have in one person.
Inter are not shy to having strikers just excel in their system or in Inzaghi's system. Thuram came in on a free, balled out. Lautaro balled out. Now Taremi's balling out. So kind of seamless transition for him. More of the same for Inter, just good striker play. Quick little stat for you, Paisan Army. Love giving you guys stats. I saw that Taremi increased Inter's social media followers by 400,000. Good for Inter. They need that because right now Alicia Lemon, the Juventus player, has more followers than their whole team. So way to get more followers for Inter.
That's almost as many as our Instagram account has.
With that, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, at Calcio Culture FC, Spotify. Listen, also, Paisan Army, just want to give you guys a quick shout out. 1 episode in and 47 5-star ratings. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Please continue to give us those 5-star ratings. It really does help us out.
And we do have 2 followers from Germany now. So shout out International Paisan Army. We are officially an international podcast. So love you guys. Appreciate it.
Danke, danke.
And with that, we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, we're going to get into the real meat of the episode here, boys. And we're back from the break. And guys, this is our first episode of our Serie A club previews heading into the season. We're just going to give you guys kind of the players you should be looking at, what you can expect from each of the top Serie A teams if you just tune in on any given week. And then we're always going to round out each episode with what we expect from them this season and what we would define as a successful season for each club. But with that, today we're going to be taking you all to a beautiful city in Italy, Turin, to talk about the Bianconeri, the old lady, Mott's favorite club, Juventus.
The black and white.
They've had a busy summer, Mott's. How are you feeling a month out?
I'm feeling great right now. We're in a great spot. My boy Juntali's got a list. He's checking it twice. He's cooking up. He's chefing. And it all started with not the first signing of a player, but the appointing of a new manager, Thiago Motta. This guy is going to change. We're entering a new era in Juventus. We're going to start playing attacking football, possession football. This is going to be the coach hot take, maybe next 5-7 years, going to win trophies,
Wow.
going to really make the Juventini forget about our last manager, who I don't think anyone wants ever again, in Max Allegri. I especially don't. But I'm really excited for what Thiago Motta is going to do and implement this summer or this season.
And for Juventus as a club in a global presence, this is going to go a long way. The Allegri ball that we saw got so old at the end, and everybody was so frustrated with it. It was impossible to watch Juventus. Simple as that. They were so boring. They never tried to win a game. And with Thiago Motta, we are going to get the exact opposite. It is, we are going to win every game, and we're going to play a beautiful style. And this is what Juventus need to kind of get back into the front part of Europe. Because I think, in Logs, I would like to get your opinion on this, honestly. I think Juventus has kind of fallen off in the last couple of years as being a major European club. I don't think they garner the same respect they had a couple of years ago, and teams aren't afraid of them.
I would
Certainly
even
not.
say, real quick, Logs, before you go, I would even say not even Europe, Italian team. Like the Italian teams aren't fearing Juventus like they used to.
No, certainly not. I mean, I remember just watching AC games for the past couple seasons, and anytime that we had Juve in the schedule, I wasn't particularly nervous about it. It ended up being a 1-1 draw every single time we played for the last 3 years. So, I mean, we'll take a point there. But from an optics standpoint, no, they're not the same Juventus that they were, pre 2019, pre 2018. I think they were grasping at straws when they brought Ronaldo in and tried to make a big splash signing. They were at the back end of a lot of legends going out. They do not have the same names on the team. They simply don't. I think that Thiago Motta is going to bring in that old timey, Italian swag back to the team, which is going to be nice, but in a brand new way. And bring Motta ball to Torino, and so I'm excited for what he's going to do. He did great things with the other side of the Turin teams, and I'm excited for Mott's to be able to actually root for his team instead of shitting on them every
Enjoy.
single Sunday.
Yeah, so just to get into it, Paisan Army, if you're unfamiliar with Max Allegri or at Juventus before this season now under Thiago Motta, and I used to joke with Logs and Vos all the time that I would watch every single Juventus game and it would be I would have more fun watching paint dry on a wall than watching Juventus play week in and week out. It was every week I would hope that there would be a different system or a different style of play under Allegri, and there never was. It was a 3-5-2. It was let's defend, let's have the ball for 30% possession, if that. Hope the other team makes a mistake, and then we just end up watching either a 1-0 win or a 1-1 draw or a 2-1 loss because we didn't want to throw anybody forward and didn't want to lose the game. Thiago Motta, on the other hand, totally different style. As we've mentioned, likes to play attacking football. But just to give you guys a little bit info on how he likes to play, if you were to maybe Google his name or look him up, I'm sure you would see a headline of how he likes to line his teams up in a 2-7-2. Obviously, we're not actually lining up that way. He likes to look at the field horizontally, and how he does that, how he breaks it down, is with the 2-7-2. But if you're looking at it vertically, it would be a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. And the way that he kind of had his team look at the game is there's not really set positions. It's kind of a style called relationism, which is more up and coming in today's game, which basically what means, like I just said, there's not set positions. You're going to see guys overloading a specific side of the ball or a side of the field to create passages of play to get the ball back high up the pitch, and then to, like I said, create overloads to create players to score. And he likes to have the ball at all times. If they lose it, he wants to win it. Last year with Bologna, he had 58% possession of the ball, and that's how he defends. He defends with the ball. And Bologna last year were the third least conceded team, the third team to concede the least amount of goals, only behind Inter and Juve. So that's just a little bit about Thiago Motta and how it's going to change from under Max Allegri.
Yeah, and I think the underlying story of this, Logan had just alluded to it, is new era of Juventus. For the last many years, it was the failed Sarri kind of in the middle of this, but it was Conte and it was Allegri, who were these kind of old school style managers, defense first, same players. We're seeing Chiellini done, Bonucci done, Buffon done, Pierre, like all these guys coming out of the squad, and now Thiago Motta coming in. He's going to be implementing our new kind of agreed upon, I would say, for the most part, around large clubs in Europe, front foot style. We're going to go win games. We're not playing for a draw. We're not playing for a 1-0 win. We're going to dominate the league the way Inzaghi has done it. That's the style. That's how you need to win now.
100%. And I think that is 100% backed up by the fact of look at how many manager changes there were across the league, and they all kind of shifted to a set, definitely more front-footed style of soccer. I mean, hopefully we're bringing it to AC, but Inzaghi found the formula. Other teams are trying to implement it, and Motta did a great job doing it at Bologna. And we'll see if he can do it up in Torino.
And with that, we're going to go through break. We're going to go straight through the lines here, guys. We're going to go goalkeeper up to the forward group, give you a breakdown of who are the key players, who we expect to play, and who's really going to be important. And along with that, a little bit of transfer talk as well. As we talk about this squad, it's interesting to look at because it is a very old and very young and a very people needing to prove themselves. There's a lot going on here. And from a player standpoint, it's a little bit of a mystery as to who is going to play, who's going to be good enough if they do get that first start. We talk about short leashes. How do you feel about the squad mods? Do you feel good, bad?
It's in a decent spot. It's definitely incomplete. The squad is not complete at all. Juntuli, like I said, has a list. He still has some players he wants to bring into the team. Uh, at the press conference the other week when they Juventus revealed Thiago Motta, like he talked to the press, Juntuli said he wants to add a player in each line of the team. So you can maybe expect potentially 3 more, maybe more. You don't know if he kind of left it in a gray area where maybe it was each a player in each position. I think that's kind of unrealistic for especially how much time left in the Mercado. Juntuli's he's got a couple more guys he needs to bring in, and you can see that based on exactly what you said. There's young guys, there's guys that need to prove themselves, and then there's older gentlemen on the squad.
Yeah, and just to kick it off with the goalkeeper group, kind of I think their first signing actually, marquee signing, big move. This was actually like a statement move and set the tone for Juventus. Was bringing in the Monza goalie, young Italian Michel Di Gregorio, who's a new school play with your feet guy, but also a very dominant shot stopper. And it is more than likely that this is the number one goalkeeper going into the season, with a chance that club legend, I would say at this point, Wojciech Szczesny, does stick around probably as a number two if he does. But this is a guy that you were really excited about. Juventus has made some big moves since then, but this really got the ball rolling and somebody that Juventus can be happy with.
Yeah, super excited about this move. One best goalkeeper of the year last year. Great with his feet. And like I mentioned, Thiago Motta having 58% possession, loves to have the ball, and he gets the goalkeeper involved and needs a goalkeeper who can play out from the back. In terms of Szczesny, I know that Juntuli is trying to get him off the books because he's making a very high salary. I think he's making around 12 million. So we're trying to get those off the books. I think it's more likely that Matteo Perin ends up as the second one, which I do like because he's been around the block. He's been on Juventus now for about 5 years. He's a great number two. He's a little bit better with his feet than Szczesny as well. He's a leader, but going back to Di Gregorio, I would expect a lot from him this year, and expect to see him on the ball a lot as well under this Thiago Motta system.
Yeah, it's exciting, but Lugs, we got to give Wojciech Szczesny his flowers here, kind of like we did Ciro Immobile. He's had a great career. Arsenal, I think when he went to Juventus, people were surprised by it, and he managed to have a great career there.
Managed to have a great career, and I didn't really think that when he moved on from Arsenal that he was going to be of anything phenomenal, but he's just been stellar, 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 not only for Juve, but for Poland as well. But certainly happy to see Juve keep a young talent, a young Italian talent in Serie A. It was sad to see Vicario leave and go to Tottenham last season. Very happy for him. Very happy to see how he's turned out at Tottenham. But you got to love to see young talent, young Italians stay in the country, grow the brand, grow the league. And I think they got a special one in Di Gregorio. Definitely is going to be a good matchup for some goalie wars with Mike Mignon. He's definitely not as good with his feet as Mike Mignon, but it'll be
Debatable.
good. We're here to debate, Mons. Tell me why.
Well, let's move on from the goalies.
But in any case, they're in a good spot. They're deep in the goalie area. Even if it's Perin as the second one, they should have no problems playing 3 competitions.
Yeah, and moving up to the shield in front of the keeper. This is the group that I really pointed to as veteran presence with some young, don't know what you're going to get kind of talent. This group could be very strong or it could be very weak, depending on how you're seeing it and how things play out at the start to the season. But really, the notable names here, center backs, Bremer, Danilo, we can kind of consider a center back at this point, has been around for a long time. Gatti, another one who can play center back, can play a little bit of right back. Even Alexandro at times we've seen kind of tuck in. And then the new signing, Juan Cabal, left-footed center back from Hellas Verona. This is an interesting group. Not a ton of traditional outside backs. We have Andreas Cambiaso?
Andrea Cambiaso,
Andrea
yeah.
Cambiaso, who last year was played as a right wing back, more traditionally a left back, left winger kind of thing. How do you see this playing out, Mats? Who are your top players here? What do you think needs to be added?
So this is going to be a transition year as well for this, or a transition in terms of a new system for this group of defense. Because last year they played in a 3-back, this year they're playing in a 4-back. It's definitely, like I mentioned earlier, an incomplete team. We still got to bring in one center back, and that person that Giuntoli is looking at, all rumors are pointing to Todibo, which would be a great addition to this team. And also,
We got a jersey on that one also.
True.
Jersey's
Paisano Army.
live. Jersey's
We do
live.
have a bet on that one as well. It's me versus Logs. Logs thinks he's going to go to the Prem. I know he's not. He already rejected a West Ham bid. He's going to go to Juventus. Um, but back to the defensive line. Very, very underrated signing. Juan Cabal from Juntuli. Love this signing for multiple reasons. Number one, stealing him from Inter. This is another player Inter was on. They were going to kind of add an additional piece to their defense, a rotational guy. He's not going to start, but he can play left back. He can play center back. He can play under Thiago Motta's system because that's what he kind of excels in what Thiago Motta likes. Thiago Motta likes you to win the ball back high up the pitch. He was number one in the Serie A last year doing that. He's a beast in the air. He was number one in aerial duels, and he also progresses the play. So he's always looking to pass it forward. He was in the 84th percentile last year, not in the Serie A, in Europe on progressing the play. So he's going to be kind of an X factor, I think, a very good rotational piece to this defense.
Mott's confirmed or not? Are they calling him the Colombian Calafiori?
Listen, it's a sore subject for me because I really wanted Calafiori on Juve and we were close, but then they kind of priced us out. But I think that he can be the next Calafiori, even though he's not Italian. So exactly, yes, the Colombian one. Because listen, Calafiori was nothing before Thiago Motta. He was trying to find his way in the Serie A, couldn't do it, had to go to Basel, and then Thiago saw him, was like, I know how to utilize his skills. I think you're going to see a lot of the same from this man and Juan Cabal.
I love it. The Colombian Calafiori. That's the best shout I've ever heard in my entire life.
Now, real quick, one more thing I
Not
just wanted
hot
to
at
touch
all.
on. One more thing I wanted to touch on was it's going to be an interesting season for Bremer because Bremer, like we've been preaching all podcasts here, Thiago Motta likes the ball. Bremer, not the best on the ball. We've also never seen him in a back four. He typically can't break into the Brazil squad because they play in a back four and he kind of struggles in a back four. Thiago Motta said to Giuntoli early on when he was signed for Juventus, Bremer's untouchable. Do not sacrifice him in the Mercado. I want him on the squad. It's going to be interesting to see how he plugs in, especially with Todibo. He's also a right-footed center back. So is Bremer going to play on the left center back? Already kind of struggling on the ball. It's going to be interesting to see, but Thiago Motta has faith in him, so we'll have to see how he plays out.
And look, kicking this over to you on Bremer's a really good segue for this. Looking at the group here, the only real guys that you say 100% these guys can play left back, let's say Cambiaso and Alexandro. And the group is more now defensive minded center backs that can versatility wise play as an outside back when you need, which is kind of what things are moving to. Oh, Mott's is updating me here. Alexandro is no longer on Juve. I didn't know that.
No. So no, our left backs are Cambiaso and now it's going to be Juan Cabal. They're probably going to interchange between the two.
Yeah, but on this is the same thing. Calafiori going to Arsenal, really a center back, most likely going to play as a left back. We saw Pep Guardiola do this, switch, kind of bailed on traditional outside backs and said, you know what, we're going to go defense first, some center backs that are decent on the ball, and build from there. Do you think that we could see this under Motta here as kind of using that model? We see Mikel Arteta adopting that, it becoming more the norm, I would say.
I think he definitely wants the option. I don't think that being flexible and being adaptable is the wrong way to go about it. But just from what I saw with Bologna, I think that the outside backs definitely play a big role in that 2-7-2. And I'm not sure that you can play a traditional center back, convert to the outside back, and not have the traditional skill set, foot skills, crossing ability, ability to just step into the midfield that that a traditional outside back typically has. Now, is that to say that you can't train somebody to do that? Surely not. I think we look at players like Nathan Ake and John Stones, obviously under one of the best coaches of all time, best managers of all time at doing that. But they certainly were not. They weren't polished. They weren't smooth on the ball, a couple of years ago. But certainly now, you wouldn't even blink an eye if John Stones was playing at the 10. So I think you definitely want to have the flexibility, especially playing three competitions. We'll see how he implements especially like a Juan Cabal, because I do think that he is probably the closest thing that they're going to do to a inverted center back outside back combo.
Yeah, what I do like about it though is the floor of this group is pretty high, I would say. They're all solid defensive players. It's more so what are you going to get on the front end of being a front foot team? Like Bremer's not going to be bad in a back four. Like from a defensive standpoint, he'll be fine there. I'll probably say the same about Juan Cabal. And then Todita, I lost his name.
Todibo.
Yeah, lost it in my mouth.
Todibo.
Yeah, another guy who should be solid back there.
Yeah.
I actually disagree. I
Well,
I think the floor is it's pretty low. Just
yeah,
because
but we'll have the ball. We're gonna have the ball, so no one can score on us.
I mean if you continuously have the ball short, and I guess that'll bring us to the midfield. But my last comment here is: has Bremer played consistently enough over the years, aside from his defender of the year season at Torino? Is Djalo really that good? Dean Huijsen is 19. Cabal hasn't really got too many minutes. I'm not saying that they're going to be bad. I'm just saying that they could fall to the floor and they could be bad. But I'll leave it at that.
Listen, this group has a lot of potential. Dean Huijsen, I don't know if he's actually going to be on the squad. He's kind of getting a lot of interest from other teams and could be a sacrifice because you could possibly get 30 mil from him. But in terms of the guys that are going to be playing game in and game out, I do think like Bremer, he struggles in the back four, but I think that it's going to be a back four, but it's going to look like a back three, and he like kind of like Spalletti did with Italy, and Bremer can still play that center back role because I know in Bologna, Thiago Motta really liked to use a libero, and for Paisan Army, for what a libero is it's someone like a John Stones that Logan mentioned. They move up into the midfield to kind of create an overload in the midfield to advance the ball. Obviously, I don't think Bremer can do that, so he won't play deployed in that position. But I think Juan Cabal can, and I think maybe you don't do it with the center back. You could do it with the left back, like an Adrian Cambiaso, like Arsenal does with Zinchenko. So it's going to be interesting to see. I really like this group. We need one more center back. It's going to be Todibo. Logan will have to buy me a jersey when that happens. And then I think he'll move on. Giuntoli will move on to the midfield to add another piece there. So let's kind of move to the midfield group here, guys.
Yeah, and in the midfield group, I would say this is probably Juventus's has turned into their strongest point on the field, basically because of what Giuntoli has done here over the last couple of months. Some carryover players from last year that everybody should recognize: Manuel Locatelli, Nicola Fajol, Beans coming back.
Beans, baby,
Snaps for Beans. We're
beans.
going to get a full season out of him. Fabio Moretti. I would maybe throw Cambiaso into this group. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Cambiaso regardless. It's a player for you guys to watch. He might be playing left wing at one point. He could be a center midfielder. He might be a defender. But the real news here are the two big signings, Douglas Luiz, Kefran Turam. Basically, with two people, they completely restructured their midfield. These are guys that are good enough to start day one. Whether or not they will is another question. Mods, how are you feeling about the state of this midfield, and where do you see the strengths?
Once again, I like the where we're at, but it's incomplete. Need to add one more player. That player obviously rumored to be Koopmeiners. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But what you need to have in a midfield under Thiago Motta is he likes his midfielders that can do everything. He doesn't want them to be only good at one thing. And I think we have four guys that can do a whole bunch of a lot of different things, especially in Kefran Turam, Douglas Luiz, and Locatelli. And then I think Fagioli and Moretti are going to learn under him and kind of excel under him, and because they are kind of hybrid midfielders as well. So I think those five are going to be kind of the main five that he deploys each game in and game out, and then Koopmeiners as well if we make that signing.
Yeah, and on Douglas Luiz, he's the big name. A lot of people will recognize him more than others. Played for Aston Villa last year. Logan, as our resident pseudo Aston Villa fan, what can people expect from Douglas Luiz if this is their first time going to be seeing him in a Juventus jersey? They've never seen him play.
The villains are going to be missing this man, let me tell you. Brazilian descent, plays all over the pitch. And he does it well in the fact that it's not too fluid where he's out of position when he's supposed to be playing one or the other. He sets the pace. He can get forward. He can be box to box 8. He can bring the energy. He takes set pieces. His pinpoint accuracy. He's got some bite, as I always like to say. I mean, this is an all-around midfielder. Great buy, almost on a discount at 50 million between the two players and 28 mil. I'm really sad to see him go from Aston Villa. I'm really happy to see him come to Serie A. I think he brings a whole nother dimension to this Juventus midfield. And that's great bit of business to get not only Douglas Luiz, but his girlfriend to come. 50
Alicia
grand.
Lemon.
50 grand on a transfer fee, maybe an all-time record breaker for women's soccer, but again, all around great player. Really happy to see him make a move here. Hopefully he keeps it up in a different league.
Stat of the day for the Paisan Army. Juventus has two players right now in the highest jersey sales. Number 1, number 9, Dusan Vlahovic. Number 2, number 7, Alicia Lemon.
Alicia Lemon.
Pretty
How
impressive.
crazy is that? A woman is number 2 on jersey sales.
Pretty impressive. Pretty crazy. Yeah,
It's not the other 7 either. That's crazy. It's not
yeah, it
Chiesa.
is. It isn't even the other 7. That is
You
crazy.
love to see it. You love to see it.
Yeah, that's an exciting one. I love Douglas Luiz. He's going to be a pivotal piece, I would say, to this team.
Nice play on words there, huh? Nice little pivotal player in the pivot, huh? How you doing?
Alliteration. But anyway,
Alliteration.
he's one of those guys that even if you play him as a 6, he is going to do a lot for you offensively other than just break up play. He can be a pacer. As an 8, he can be a destroyer, and then he can play as a 10 because he's got a little bit of finesse to his game. On his running mate, Kefran Turam, I love this one. I'm thrilled that we're going to be able to see this guy week in and week out. This is a player, for people that don't know, that was heavily linked to Liverpool last year for 60, 70 million. Like, the fee was going up, and for a number of reasons that fell through. Juventus got this guy in a steal. I don't know what Giuntoli did, but they figured it out, and now they have a starting center midfielder that is potentially worth 100 million in a couple years.
Yeah, love this move by Giuntoli. It was 20 mil. Great bit of business here. And what I really like about this move is it's a replacement move because Rabiot's probably not going to renew his contract. Thankfully, get some fresh blood in there, get a new player. Rabiot's been on the team for 4 years, 5 years. You kind of know what you're going to get from him. Thuram, young player, 23, can still develop under Motta. He's going to be kind of the horse in the midfield, the box to box, going to be breaking up play defensively, getting the ball, transitioning it, and moving it forward. Excited to see what he can do this year. A great bit of business by Giuntoli.
And the last couple of guys here, carryovers from last year. Beans, Nicola Fagioli had a rough year, got suspended for almost the entire season due to betting issues. And Manuel Locatelli. Both of these guys now really need to step up if they want to place in this midfield day one. It's looking, and it's hard to say what the original midfield 3 is going to be. But
it is tough to say.
I think this is one of those times where in training, how you train is going to matter because you have to work to get into this team. Now, and Douglas Luiz is a guy that works, and you're going to have to step up to that every single week. For you, Mott, Beans, Locatelli, what do you expect from them this season?
Yeah, and I'm going to include Moretti in this one because I think Moretti and Locatelli have to be put in this bucket, and that bucket is what you mentioned earlier. Prove it, guys. Moretti he hasn't been on any other team besides Juventus. He came up from the next gen in the Primavera system. Locatelli, obviously, we bought him from SAS 2-3 years ago. Kind of been underwhelming. Obviously, Locatelli's excuse was Allegri was deploying him in not his right position, couldn't get up the field, and kind of just had him forget about how to play offense because he was playing so deep on defense. So these two players are really prove it seasons. Moretti needs to prove it to see if he can play at Juventus game in and game out. And Locatelli, if you don't do it, we're going to sell you probably. But to your point, Bose, what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing in the trainings are there's been 3 players that have been balling out in the trainings, and it's Locatelli, it's Fabio Moretti, and then it's one other player that we haven't mentioned, and it's an 18-year-old new signing, Adzic. I'm hearing nothing but incredible things about those 3 players and how, just like I mentioned, they can do it all. They can play defense, they can pass, they can score. So it's going to be a prove it year for those 2, but I'm hearing good things in training.
This is a stout midfield, by the way. I mean, I was just thinking about it as I was sitting here, kind of spacing out. When you line this midfield up against AC Milan's midfield, they make them look like children. This
And
is
we're
a
not
tough.
even talking about Koopmeiners, which by the way, a report came out yesterday or 2 days ago. Juntali met with Thiago Motta a couple weeks ago, a month ago, and asked him who would you rather have in your squad to pick from, Calafiori or Koopmeiners? I maybe disagree with this. This might be the first time I've disagreed with something Juntali and Thiago Motta did, but they went with Koopmeiners. So Koopmeiners is a clear objective that they're going to shift to after they sign Todibo. And I think Koopmeiners would be a Juventus player at the start of this season.
It's definitely trending that way. In Teun Koopmeiners, Logs, this is a guy that you've had your eye on for quite a long time. I understand why Mata is saying we don't need Calafiori, we need Koopmeiners. Koopmeiners brings something that even with the new signings that these guys don't have, and that's pretty big deal if you want to get into Coop here.
Toon is the boy. Toon is the boy. He's been producing ever since he came in from Eredivisie. Been a great for Atalanta. He produces numbers. Like when you look at him play, he doesn't have a ton of finesse. You don't think his shooting is phenomenal. This guy puts balls in the back of the net. He makes offense happen. He covers the pitch. That guy, I think he might have had the most ground coverage of Atalanta, and I will fact check myself on that over the
Maybe
season, but
Ederson.
probably Ederson
Ederson
and
covers, but Coop
Toon's
does
close.
too.
Toon's
Yeah,
close. High energy, just a great player all around. I really think that someone will remind me. Atalanta's coach's name is Gasparini.
Gasparini.
Gasparini did a great job with him. We've talked about this before. How he brings young players in, builds them up, ships them out. I think he did exactly that with Toon. I think this is Toon's time to make a step. I don't think he's up to the top tier teams just yet, but certainly Juve would be a great step up. He's got a wonderful place on that roster. But one thing that I will say is, and I'm obviously scarred, the last time a Serie A team decided that they didn't need the left-footed center back and they'd rather go for the attacking mid, AC Milan passed on Sven Botman and bought Charles de Ketelaar. And we all
Who, if we had kept, would have been a really good signing, I will say, but we
And
I
did.
don't.
Gasparini.
Pioli wasn't going to get what he needed out of him. Gasparini did a great job, but again, we'll see if this works out for Juve. I think they have a really strong midfield without Toon. Toon brings it to a whole nother level.
Yeah,
Finalizing Coop here, if you go traditional midfield now, 6 being your defensive midfielder, 8 being your box-to-box midfielder, 10 being your attacking midfielder, Toon is much more the 10 than any of the guys they have by a long shot. And that's the biggest one for me. And the other point is on Atalanta, he looks a little bit not out of place in that he plays with the team well, but his skill level is better than everybody on the team at this point. If you watch them, you can just see it.
Shame that he
yeah.
didn't play for the Netherlands and that he was hurt because I think the
No, it
world.
wasn't. No, it wasn't because then Atalanta would be asking for 70 or 80 mil rather than 60. So I was
Calafiori effect.
thrilled to see him injured, but not too injured, just to miss the Euros. But
Just
Coop
enough.
Miners, just to give you just a little bit more, exactly the kind of midfielder Thiago Motta wants, can do it all. 10 goals, 10 assists last season. Between if and when Juventus sign him, between Locatelli, Thuram, and Douglas Luiz, those 4 guys can actually play every spot in the midfield. They can do everything in the midfield. They're exactly what Thiago Motta looks for in his midfielders. And then you're not even including Fagioli, Moretti, and Adzic.
Yeah, this is a
So
midfield that has a lot of different ways they can play, which is important for top level clubs because you have to beat teams in different ways depending on who the competition is. And it's less of a problem when you're on a worse team because you're kind of sitting in. Um, Juventus are going to have to bring it to teams, and they're going to have to play Inter, and they're going to kind of get their butts kicked and try to stay in the game. But before we move on to the forwards here, I do want to take 2 minutes here to talk about Beans. This is a really big season for him, and he does something that the rest of this team doesn't do in terms of being more like a regista kind of player, like Andrea Pirlo, a pacer, we call it a lot of the time. That's a really important position now. And for me, he's probably the best at this in this team. Do you see him having a spot this year, or at least getting some starts and then having to step up? How do you see the season going? Either of you can jump in, really.
I mean, I'm a huge Beans fan. Just such a shame that he decided to gamble on his own games and then also bring Tonali down with him. But for the small amount of time that we saw him the season before, Thought he was incredibly impressive, especially for a young player that hadn't seen the pitch too often. And again, like you said, plays a great role for them to be able to pace play. Locatelli, I thought was going to be that guy for many years, never got to that point. Thuram's not going to pace anything. He's just going to run around with the most energy of all time. So it's good that he's going to have at least a Douglas Luiz or even better a Fajoli next to him to kind of balance that out. And then, I mean, I really do think that this guy's has to have a spot on the roster. I mean, regardless of the fact of how much time he missed last year, he's got a ton of potential, and you can't just let that rot on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, he made the Euro squad and played one game. I don't even think he played a
And
game. He's
Locatelli
just
didn't.
Locatelli did not. He can definitely, to your point, both pace the game the best out of this group, which is why he's definitely going to get in. That and the fact that Thiago Motta rotates his squad like no other coach I've ever seen before. He almost never starts the same 11. So he's going to be rotating these guys left and right. And I do think Fajoli, when he starts and plays, will be the pace setter for sure.
Yeah, this midfield group's really, really exciting. But bringing it on to the last line here, very small group of forwards, and it is most likely going to get smaller. I'm bringing you guys through this squad. Dusan Vlahovic, their marquee number 9, was the big signing a couple years ago. Serbian guy. We love our Serbs here. Paisan Army, you're an automatic Serbia fan. If you listen to this, I'm with him. You have Milik, and then the Turkish wonder, Kenan Yildiz. The two guys, most likely, only one of them will be on the team by the time the season begins. Federico Chiesa and Matthias Sule. There's a lot of talent here, but it's a very small group, which can only get you so far.
Yeah, it's really small and it's gonna get smaller because, like you said, either Sule or Chiesa are gonna leave. It's looking more like Sule because no one just wants to pay for Chiesa, I guess, because it's kind of what have you done for me now. And then in terms of the strikers, Milik, he's also probably not going to be in the team. As of now, he's injured, so there's not really much interest out for him. But if you're going to sell Sule and Milik, you need to bring more guys in, and we're not linked to too many players right now. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the Mercado. But yeah,
I
Uncertain
think there's
times, very uncertain times. For me, I don't know why you don't just keep Sule and Chiesa unless it's a financials
because you
thing.
want Koopmeiners. You're sacrificing Sule for Koopmeiners. Which, if we sell Sule right now, Roma is in the main spot to get him. That would suck because we'd play him a couple times a year. But he said no to the Premier League. We're looking to get 30 mil. Try to get at 5 mil in bonuses, so 35 around there. Roma wants to pay like 30, and that's it. I will say, if Juntali sells Sule, you have to add a percentage of a sell on there. We're talking about a guy that in 2 years could be worth 60, 70 mil.
I agree. Lugs, how do you feel about
definitely
this group?
no Sule, definitely good talent. Quick shout for him. Love. I know a bunch of Serie A guys keep moving to the Prem, but I love that a bunch of other Serie A guys are anti-Prem. You don't need to go there to make a name for yourself. You don't need to go there to get paid. There's definitely a lot of other talent out there, so happy to see that. But what a fall from grace Chiesa has had. This guy was the wonder kid, showed up and brought the talent level that kicked out Berardi from the national team for a bit there, and then just obviously had a couple of injury woes. But this guy was supposed to be the guy for Juve until he retired, and it just hasn't worked out that way. Allegri maybe broke him. I'm not sure that Thiago has the patience for him right now. It also just seems like they're not going to get the price tag that they want. Clearly worth more than 40 million in my mind, but I also, from the other side of it, I would not pay more than 30 or 35 for him at this point. So it's definitely a little bit of a weird situation. I think he'll end up staying just because of that price tag conundrum. But you kind of need to buy another 9. I don't see how
Or
Juve.
Or a winger?
What? Oh,
both.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes, maybe an 11. I don't know. Just somebody to come in to back up Vlahovic that's not Milik, because I don't think you're playing 3 competitions, especially with Vlahovic not necessarily being able to play all those games at the highest level. You cannot be running Milik out there starting a Champions League group stage game.
What worries me about this is every one of these guys you have no idea what you're going to get for like a 3 week run. Dusan Vlahovic might not score a goal for 2 months at a time. Like he's very sporadic, but when he's on, he's on. Chiesa kind of the same way, albeit I still think there's a player in Chiesa, and if he stays, I think he has a massive season. That's my bold prediction. Milik isn't a guy that can play a lot. He's getting older. As Mod said, he's injured. And then Yildiz is going to get a ton of burn this year, which I'm really excited about. But again, you can't be reliant on a 19-year-old that has never played a full season as the guy to be a major source of goals. So they need to add a good player, and then they also need to add a depth player to really have this be where they need it. And on top of this, I honestly believe we're going to see Cambiasso playing as a forward for some of the season just because of what they have.
Yeah, I mean, I know Cambiasso said he's been playing as a left back in training, but I think like he'll be a left back on paper, and then in the run of play he'll move push up. But just to kind of take you guys through each one and what I think, Chiesa is an interesting one because, like Logan said, he's worth more than what the price is, but no one's willing to pay it because he's so on and off. He's another guy in the bucket with Locatelli and Moretti, prove it year. Also, he's on a contract year as well, so he's asking for more money. But the fact is that he hasn't earned that wage increase. So this is a prove it year. Dusan Vlahovic, like Vo said, he can be hot and he can be cold. Also, going to be interesting to see how Thiago Motta sees him because the last player that he had playing as a number 9 was Joshua Zirkzee. They are two totally different players. Zirkzee likes to drop in to the 10, false 9 area, get on the ball, assist, flick it, create. Dusan Vlahovic, total opposite, running behind, crosses, can finish. So it's going to be interesting to see how Dusan works in this system or how Thiago Motta can deploy him. And then Yildiz is a guy like Vo said, gonna love to see what he can do this year, but he's 19, doesn't have a lot of experience. So this is the most incomplete part of Juventus here, for sure.
Yildiz for me fits really well into how Mata ball. Like he can be,
Yes,
he's kind of like a 9. He's kind of a winger. He can probably be a decent false 9 if he's put in that role. Really just fluid guy, tricky with the ball, can generate shots out of nowhere. And Dusan is still a big question mark for me. Lugs, how do you feel about Dusan? Because when he was on Fiorentina, we were so hot on him. And then he came into Juve and we were so hot on him. And this should be a guy that you have for 10 years that is your guy.
Well, I think you said it best. If he could just keep up the level of output consistently over the whole season, he is. But again, he goes 2 months, you don't hear his name, and then he's got two Hatties in a row. So, he, top 3 in scoring the last 3 seasons. But all those goals came within, a 1 month period, 6 months apart. So coming out of Fiorentina, the training ground for Juve down in Florence, obviously a quality talent, and it was an awesome buy. A nice January buy, kind of gave Juve a bit of a bump in that season, but again, just so streaky, so frustrating. That's been kind of that's been the Juve of years past, though. Hopefully, Thiago turns that around. I just think that this is I add him to the list for me. Make or
agreed.
break season.
Agreed. I agreed. And also to all these kind of attackers, they don't have the baked in excuse anymore that it's Max Allegri playing defense. Like you don't have that baked in excuse. Now it you got to prove it. And that's especially for Chiesa and Vlahovic.
And this top to bottom, make it or break it, could work very well for Juve. And players could step up and get to another level that we haven't seen, or they're going to crash and burn out of the squad. Either one at this point is good for Juve. But just to wrap up the squad here, Mats, for you, what's your strongest 11?
So starting with up front, just because that's where we're at right now, I would go, especially now because I think it's trending that Chiesa is going to stay. I would go Yildiz off the left, Dusan 9, Chiesa off the right. Then going to the midfield, I'm going to just assume that we have Koopmeiners because we're going to get Koopmeiners. So I'd play him in the 10, and then I would play Douglas Luiz and Thuram or Locatelli in the double pivots, and then going to the back line, I would start Danilo at right back, Todibo at right center back, Bremer at left center back, and Cambiaso at left back, and then Di Gregoria at goalkeeper.
What if you don't have Todibo? Who's the guy?
I'd probably put Danilo in at right center back and Gatti in at right back.
Interesting one. The squad's not terrible when
Or
you look at it
actually,
like that.
or maybe Bremer in at right center back and Juan Cabal in at left center back, because you actually have a left-footed player. But I think that you start him off as a rotational piece, not as a starter day one.
Fair enough.
It's unfortunate you're going for Koopmeiners. Not that I hate the move. It's just when you do look at it, that forward spot and the back line just need a lot of work, in my opinion. It'd be nice to see, because you already have bodies in the midfield, and I think you can get by without Coop. The front line and the back line definitely needs something to make me feel a lot better about this team.
Imagine if they still had Dybala. That'd be perfect.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean we're definitely
Sheesh.
linked to some players up tack or up front. I know we're linked with Goodmanson. I think Jadon Sancho is trending to not come, so we're definitely linked with some guys. But I do agree our up top is lacking. However, if you can get 10 goals from Douglas Luiz, 10 goals from Koopmeiners like they've been doing, you get more service into Dusan. He can actually start
that's
finishing more
true.
because he has more opportunities. You get 20 from him. You can get 10 from Case. So you're talking about 40 goals now, and then you're going to have obviously some littered around other places.
Yeah, that's true. The service aspect of it really exasperated the issue. Like you could really see when he wasn't burying. Like he had three
Also,
chances.
yeah, also just under Allegri, like we would get the ball and it would be Dusan and Chiesa against 7 guys.
Yeah.
Now that's not going to be the case. But I agree, we don't have the depth up front, and we did forget one player who I believe is going to be in the squad. Doesn't add a whole lot, but just is a piece, and that's Wea. Not going to give you like a whole lot of numbers, but is just another rotational
Yeah,
piece.
not a terrible rotational piece. And in Motta's first season here with a squad that is going to be at his fingertips, they're playing in Serie A, they're playing in the Coppa Italia, and they're in the Champions League. What are you defining as a successful season here?
Yeah, it's a tough question to answer because first and foremost, attractive football would be just a win, right? Not even top 4, just playing attacking football. But obviously it's Juventus, so in their DNA it's you have to win. So he has to finish at least top 4. And then I think you got to come out of the Champions League table, make it to the round of 16 or quarterfinals, and then you have to win a trophy, so you have to go for the Copa. But the thing is that Motta's never managed in the Champions League. He's never managed three competitions. He has played in them, so he might have a slight edge there. But it's going to be interesting to see, because let's say he punts one of them, he punts the Champions League and just focuses on the Serie A. Then it's going to be like, oh, can he manage 2 competitions? So he has to kind of find a balance, but he has to perform in all of them. I would even say, I said top 4 would be a win. I would say Juventus fans would be mad about that, because you want to win as a Juventini. You kind of expect to win the Serie A every year. So he's going to be under pressure. What I want to see happen is top 4 finish, 2 to 3, 1, 2, 3, not in the 4th spot, win the Coppa Italia, and then get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League.
Lokes, how do you feel about this? Because I am pretty. I don't. I think you're shooting way too high. That's what I'm gonna say.
I
Lokes, what do
agree.
you? Yeah,
I agree. From my take, I don't think you need to win a trophy this season. I think in the spirit of, and then hopefully Juve's doing this, giving Mata 2, 3 seasons, no matter what, let him institute his system, let him get his players in. I think this season all you have to do is just get back to the Champions League. You'll get pretty far in Coppa Italia without trying too hard, just from the quality of the roster. Obviously, Champions League this year is gonna be a little weird, a little wanky with the new setup. I'm not terribly worried about Champions League soccer if I'm Mata, if I'm Juve. All I'm doing is just getting top 5 in Serie A, getting back to the European competition next year, and proving to the rest of the league that what I did last year wasn't just a fluke at Bologna. If I'm Thiago Motta,
Which is real quick why I don't think that I'm shooting too high. Because if I told you last year Bologna is going to make the Champions League, you'd be like, what are you talking about? So Mata did it with a lot less, and now he has a lot more. So
Fair point.
but Juve was kind of bad last year.
yeah, but now we're getting better. And Bologna, you would have said Bologna was bad last year before they started playing.
They have to gel first, though, bro. There's like getting a new manager and getting all these new players. They're not just going to be an automatically well-oiled
I agree.
machine.
It's going to take 2 years, but he needs to produce.
Yeah,
Like I agree.
I hope they give him the time because he's a manager that has clear identity that he wants to instill. For me, I'm in agreement with Logs. I would say success is finishing in a European spot and throw everything else out the window. This squad is very thin. Apart from the midfield, the defense is not great. The forwards, you don't know what you're going to get. And if somebody gets hurt, you are immediately in panic mode. If Dusan goes down in like month one, they are screwed. They are screwed. And you need to focus on one competition and build on that. Year two, you bring in 3 or 4 new players, then you can make a Champions League run. But right now, they're not built to play 3 competitions, and they need to focus on getting a European spot for me.
We'll
Yes,
see. I
sir.
think they're going to be
Yes,
better than
sir.
us think.
And with
I like
ooh,
this defensive group, especially with Todibo.
Oh,
I like it.
I
no.
don't
You don't
dislike it.
have Todibo yet, bro. He's
Yeah, you
going to
don't have
West
to do
Ham.
I will bet you 2 jerseys.
But we'll see with that one. We made some predictions about Juve. We're going to take a quick break and we come back. We're just going to give you a Mercato update as things come to a close here. And we're back from the break for the Mercato moves update. We're just going to be giving you guys kind of the quick hitters that have been coming up since the last time we spoke. Continuing to roll with Juventus. Moretti officially signed a new deal. Good to see him locked in, getting a young guy, Italian guy. You love to see Italian players on the first team. It's becoming less and less of a thing, especially as AC Milan fans. We are kind of starved for that. On a more positive note, even more positive for Mats, Rabiot is going to be leaving Juventus. Contract has concluded. They are not going to be re-signing him.
Thank God. Get Adrien Rabiot and Veronica Rabiot off my goddamn squad. Gave me 4 or 5 years of just, he had one good year of just him, watching him just run up and down the pitch and add nothing to the game in terms of creativity. Couldn't be happier to get this guy off my squad. See you later.
And his mom, too. She's out of here.
Veronica's I mean, we won't get into it, but Veronica's the worst agent in the world. Although maybe not, because he does end up getting money, but Rabiot stinks.
Great agent. Great agent.
Get him off my squad.
Rabiot's coming for you on the Twitter Spaces now, Mats.
Bringing it over to Milan, the Rossoneri. Alvaro Morata is Fabrizio Romano official. We're really excited about that one. We'll give you more of a breakdown on that later. The other new development, Logs, this is a guy that you really like, huh?
I do like this guy. Samardzic is fully linked to AC. We were kind of linked to him last winter. Not a lot of movement coming out of Udinese on that one, but I think I said this before. Even if we don't get Fofana, which I feel like we are, 15 million Samardzic is a great bit of business. A seasoned vet in Serie A who's also not even that old. I think he's 25.
I think he's 24. This is a guy that's been linked to Inter, Juventus, AC Milan constantly every summer. It'd be good if AC Milan finally pulls the trigger. This is a good player.
Yeah, they're finally building a squad that's built to win several competitions, even if you lose some key players, which has been a problem in the last couple of years.
That's exactly it.
And probably the biggest Mercato moves of the last couple of weeks is the Victor Osimhen saga. Last week, it looked like he was going to PSG. The latest I saw today, as we record, he is not going to PSG. I don't know what's going to happen here. I think he's going to stay. I hope he stays. That'll be the best thing for Serie A.
I think he's
great
gone
for Serie A, but I think he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. I think Lukaku and Napoli already agreed to personal terms. They just gotta find the price with Chelsea. Osimhen he's gone. I bet you he's gone.
He didn't want to be there last season either, and they just put way too high of a price tag on him.
Last season, I'm throwing out the window for Napoli. People Ozyman, Cavada, Zombo, these guys are going to remember the title-winning season under Spalletti. They're going to see what's going on with Conte, and they're going to be excited about it. Andrea Pirlo, we're talking about how amazing it was to play for Conte. It was the hardest guy to play for, but what do? They won competitions, and Napoli has a bunch of winners that want to do that.
Yeah, but he's been
Isn't that
checked out
Conte's
for a
thing?
year. I think he's gone. And listen, he great player for the Serie A, gonna be missed, but I do think like it's his time to go.
I hope not.
I'd be fine. I think he's earned the right to make a decision there.
Fair. That's fair enough. But with that, guys, we are wrapping up here. Next time we talk, we'll be giving you the preview of Inter Milan. Some are calling them the favorites. I would certainly call them the favorites.
Ratones is what they are.
Yeah, Los Ratones. No,
Los Ratones.
I like it. Inter's good. They're a really good team. But with that,
Inter plays beautiful
that's it
soccer.
for us, guys. Thanks again for tuning in, Paisan Army. We do this for you. Logs, what do you got for them?
Guys, follow us on all the socials. We got Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and you can listen to us on all your favorite streaming sites, Spotify, Apple Music. Mott, take us away.
Paisan Army, don't be a gagoots, and Forza Calcio Culture.